Okay, so good morning, Bruno. Off you go.
All right. So this webinar has been announced already quite some time ago when the version 14 came out in September. Then we needed a bit of time to get used to these new functionalities.
Okay.
And that's why today I still wanted to come back on, okay, what do we have in this version 14? And mostly how the pick pack ship has evolved. Because yeah, I know that for you this is probably a lot of consequences now, and I would like to hear from you. How do you feel with? How do you live with that?
Great. So pick back ship.
So what changed with the version 14? Well, I didn't mention everything, but basically, roughly, the plan was really to have less screens. You know that the pick pack ship functionality can be or was quite long. It's still a bit long, but we have removed quite a lot of screen pop-ups coming out. You have to click less than before. A lot of values which you had to fill manually in the past, now they are pre-filled when possible.
Okay.
And then on top of the full flow, which was already used before, we somehow reintroduced the quick flow, on which I will come back later.
I can see this is a little escalator here. Is that
exactly,
the idea?
Yeah. It was a long debate to know which icon do we use. So you have the stairs for the full, it's quite long.
Yeah.
And the quick flow, it's more automated. That's why you have the elevator.
Very clear. Okay, and the progress bar?
Yeah, when you have big documents, you know, it's not the only place in Unifield, but sometimes the system will go on loading and you don't know where you are. You're in a kind of a limbo. So now we have a progress bar which shows you a percentage to explain you where you are. Are you at 60%, 70%, and so on, even though it can last for 5 to 10 minutes sometimes.
Okay, all right.
Before to come on the new things on the pick pack ship, let's summarize briefly how you can do deliveries within Unifield. So basically, we have three ways. Okay, they have always been there, and there is nothing new. There is something which is called simple out, also called delivery order. It's the name of the document, or out, which is the acronym commonly used. But this is usually proposed when you sourced an ER from a stock or when you source it on an order.
An internal request.
An internal request, exactly, yeah.
Sorry, none of these acronyms mean anything to me. You're going to have to translate them all.
Don't hesitate to interrupt me if these things are not clear. I hope that for people attending, it's more clear. And with this process, what is done is that goods are shipped in one step only from the stock to the customer.
And
then we have a second one, which is the long process, the pick pack ship. This is the one which has been touched with the version 14. This is usually proposed when a field order is sourced. So, okay, after you can have different variants in this, but this is the most commonly used process. And in this case, in the pick pack ship, the shipment is done in 3 steps: the pick, the pack, and the ship, to send the goods to the customer. Now, within this pick pack ship process, we already have 2 alternatives: the full flow, which I explained, or which I introduced just before. It's the stairs, if you want. With this, actually, the goods, you will be able to distribute them in several parcels. So you will have to specify each of the products in which parcels you include them.
Okay, so I understand that you can't use the quick flow if you've got several parcels. The quick flow is designed only for one parcel, is that correct?
Exactly. But the quick flow, it's actually if you don't care about the parcels, you want to ship the goods.
And you pretend it's in one parcel.
Exactly, even though it's in 100 parcels, but you don't really need to inform the customer in which parcels the goods are. So now, a little bit depending on the situation, you will choose one or the other one. Basically, between the pick pack ship and the previous one, the simple out, you will use it if you deliver the goods next door and you don't really need a lot of documentation. Things like packing list, freight manifests.
Yeah. But if you're, say, for example, putting stuff on a truck out to the project, several hundred items, you want to be sure that they're correctly they all arrive, all the boxes are counted, etc. Like this. This is when you go for the full flow and you distribute the goods in several parcels. That's what I understand.
Exactly, especially if you subcontract the transport to
yeah, then you have to be sure.
the transport
'Cause
company.
you've got
Then
a specific number of boxes with specific number of items in each box, etc., and a clear packing list.
yeah, if you have to cross borders or some checkpoints,
yeah,
most
then you
of
need
the
a
time,
full flow.
yeah. Same thing if you ship the goods by plane. For sure, the the people behind the plane
They want to know
have a
exactly.
specific documentation.
Okay.
And by the way, this has also a bit evolved with the version 14. Is that now things regarding weights and so on have been improved, and the freight manifest is better, and hopefully
it's clearer for your average pilot to be able to look through a freight manifest and understand the boxes that he's actually taking on his or her plane.
Yeah, because I heard that in the past sometimes they were redoing the freight manifest because Unifield was not fully correct.
Mm-hmm.
And the pilot was refusing to take the goods with his freight manifest.
Yeah, that's clear. Okay, all right. The real consumption report then? What's that all about?
It's something which is less used than the other one, but I still wanted to mention it here because it's a way to do delivery.
Mm-hmm.
With the two previous ways, it's actually Unifield will actually suggest you the goods that you have to pick, especially the batch numbers. While here, actually, it's a delivery that you will register post-delivery, meaning after the actual delivery of the goods. Basically, you take things out of the stock.
So you steal from the stock.
Exactly, you steal from the stock
in a hurry, and you write down on a piece of paper.
Ideally, you write on a piece of paper,
yeah.
And then by the end of the week or by the end of the month, you can then record this inside something called a real consumption report, which will actually generate a document which is called the out consum, which is exactly the same than the simple out that we saw on the top. Be aware that the destination for this thing must always be an external consumption unit. So you cannot deliver things to a project using this functionality.
Can you give me a case study that might where I might use the real consumption report then?
Yeah, typically the example we take is you have a cupboard with stationary items.
Okay.
Of course, for this, if you follow it in Unifield.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, there are limits to what we want to follow in Unifield, but...
yeah, but something like a cupboard or a small room where you want to let people take what they want.
Okay.
Or maybe someone is following this, but it's not followed directly in Unifield.
Yeah.
And then you would just regularize this at the end of the week so that consumption is actually recorded inside Unifield.
Okay, I'm with you so far.
No, and this is where I maybe need a pointer. I don't know if you can give me that.
Careful what you click on.
Yeah, I can right click. I can do the pointer option and the laser one.
Oh, qu'est-ce que c'est beau,
so we have this. I hope you can see this.
Yeah, I didn't know that. That's a nice trick.
So here so now we are entering inside a pick, pack, ship flow, and I will explain briefly, as much as I can, how it is actually working. Actually, so I explained that with the simple out we have one step, while with the pick, pack, ship we have the 3 steps. The picking, which is symbolized here below, the packing, and finally the shipment. So with all these steps, or at each of these steps, goods are moving from location to location. Like for the picking, for example, what is the picking? It's moving the goods from a stock location to the packing location.
So it's probably the same warehouse, but a different area in the same warehouse.
Exactly. So you take the goods out of the shelves and you put them somewhere where they will be able to be packed inside parcels. And by the way, when we say taking goods out of the shelves, the same is true if you take them actually from the stock or if they have been purchased. Because if they have been purchased before, they are probably in a cross-docking location, ready to be forwarded to the project.
Okay, so you collect from the shelves or from the cross-docking location, as you call it, because the purchaser has dumped them somewhere in the warehouse. You put them in the packing area.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's there, waiting to be transferred to the next step with the packing process. And with this, it will enter into another location called shipment.
Yeah, so ready to ship area as I know it. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's with the packing process, you actually take the goods and put them inside parcels. and transfer this to the shipment area.
Clear.
At this stage, they arrive on something which was called a draft ship, and which is now called a shipment list.
Okay.
So
that's new if compared to the previous version of Unifield.
Actually, the naming has been changed. That's something that we try to also systematize. Is in terms of naming. We speak now about picking list and shipment list. It's the two first steps when we are in the picking stage or in the shipment stage. But for the shipment, be aware that the movement is actually done in two steps. First of all, you will move the goods to another location called distribution. And finally, when you will actually send the goods to the customer, it will move to the customer location.
Okay, you lost me a bit. What's the difference between the shipment phase and the distribution phase? But, because if I'm thinking in the same, I thought you had me up. It's on the shelves on the left-hand side with the stock. Then it moves to the packing space. Then it moves to the shipment space, but then it moves to another shipment space. I'm confused.
Yeah, exactly. But you could take the example if you send the goods to the airstrip to send them, so they will arrive on in the distribution area, and then suddenly you realize that there is not enough space on the plane, and this is why you have the possibility. If you look at the
example, yeah. So you turn up at the airport, you've got 100 kilos. Pilot's only going to take 50. Then you can go back.
Exactly. And then you can do a return from this shipment, and goods will then, in this case, go back
to the ready to ship phase,
in the shipment location inside the shipment list.
Waiting for the next plane.
Waiting for an next plane or a next transportation mean to go there. Also, I also symbolize here, there are 3 steps where you can do return. So if we take it from the very beginning, from a packing, from the pre-packing list, you can do a return. In this case, goods will go back on the shelves, inside the stock or in the cross-docking area.
This is basically cancelling the whole thing and putting it all back on the shelves.
Exactly, yeah. Or you can also do it from the first step of the shipment. When goods are already on the shipment list, you decide to put them back inside the
stock.
Inside the stock. And this could be the case if, for example, you realize that you won't have a plane before a month. So maybe there is no need to keep them in the shipment location, and it's better to put them back in the stock.
Because you might have a rotation of stock in the meantime.
Yeah, so that if goods are released, you could then maybe use them for other things.
That's clear. Okay, so you can always go back and right from the distribution phase, you can go right back to the beginning. Okay, and then do we go to the next slide?
Yeah, we can move to the next slide.
Now I don't know how to move to the next slide with this new laser pointer. There we go. Here we go.
Okay, so here I won't spend too much time on this, but this is an example with the different steps that you have in the pick pack ship and the different names. So the picking is done in 2 steps. You have actually 2 documents to process. A picking list first, and then a picking ticket.
What's the difference between the 2?
Well, thanks for the question, Robin. Actually, what we have, the picking list is really the starting point. Actually, when goods are on a picking list, they are basically still in stock. Nothing is moving with the picking list, but it's only the picking ticket which will move the goods from one location, the stock, to the other one, the packing. Actually, you use the picking list to actually prepare the picking ticket, which is a paper that you can give to your storekeeper, who will, on this basis, physically pick the goods, and then you can validate this picking ticket to move to the next step, which is the packing step, and then you have this pre-packing list document.
I'm confused as to why do you even need a picking list then? Why don't you just give the picking ticket to the storekeeper?
Because what you could have, you could have an order with 500 lines, and the project telling you, I urgently need line 20 and line 400. And in this case, you create a picking ticket with only these 2 lines that you can ship to the project in a more urgent way.
Clear, but then the other 498, you just do them and clear a second picking ticket for those, and they go by car instead of by plane.
Yeah. This one would stay waiting on the picking list, and then you will create the picking ticket for everything or some of these things according to the needs.
Okay, no, that's clear.
Then the third one is the pre-packing list. Well, nothing really new on that. And then the shipment, where we already explained a little bit the two steps that we can have there. You process a shipment list, and then you process a shipment document.
Okay.
Okay. And then we can move to the. So these are not the things which have changed. So the naming, so again, these two steps on the picking ticket, what we used to call the main pick and the sub pick. Basically, on the main pick, this is where you don't have the dash behind the naming. While on the sub pick, you have this dash. You can have this -01, -02, -03. Maybe for you, Robin, it won't mean much, but I hope for the people attending,
it does. Yeah. Because I used to do it all by hand. We didn't have Unifield at the time, so it was easier.
Okay.
But messier, and it took longer.
Yeah, that's not sure, but okay. That's another debate. So now, so these two documents are named picking list and picking ticket. One of the pop-up which was called the product to process, where you actually had to select the quantity that you were picking. This has been removed, and all these changes can now be done in the main screen. So one of the objectives was really to get rid of some of these pop-ups which were coming here and there to make the flow more easy to understand. Similar to what we already have on the purchase order for quite some time, we can now edit a line directly in the picking ticket, or we can click on a button to open a pop-up where you can change more things. So again, this can decrease the need of the use of a pop-up. And we can already move to the next one. We have also now the possibility to change the source location in one step. So, and this is all showed here. So with these buttons, you see you have a pen.
Or you need to have good eyesight to use Unifield, don't you? Blimey, it's tiny.
Yeah, this is PowerPoint. Huh?
Okay,
yeah, so I hope people can see this on their screen.
It'll be a challenge, but we'll do our best.
Yeah,
okay, so
I also did my best for this, but I just wanted to highlight the new buttons that you have. So now you can, on a picking, so we are on a picking list here, and we can or edit a line if we click on it, and this is, then we can change the quantity which will be processed. Or we can go further and click on this notepad icon, and then you open this pop-up, which we had before, and where you can change even more information.
Okay, all clear. Moving on.
On the packing, what we can do now is that we can select several lines and decide to put them in one parcel range in one step. While before, we had to do this on every line. So every line had to be selected, and you had to specify in which, and we mentioned parcel range because it could be one parcel or several parcels of the same size. So this new button, the pack line button, really allows to do the dispatch inside the parcels in an easier way. And also remember that before, the weight was something which was mandatory. After a long discussion, we have decided to remove it from Unifield. So of course, you can still include a weight, and it's still needed very often, especially again if we speak about shipping goods, air transport. Yeah, but this is not mandatory anymore in the software.
Okay.
So this is the example of the new pack screen with the change highlighted and the pack line button is highlighted there. So you select the products that you want to pack in a parcel range, and then you click on this pack line button, and then you can simply include them there. Shipment. So also the naming has been a little bit changed. The main ship are now called shipment list, while the sub ships are called the shipments. So what is actually shipped are the shipments, and the shipment list is just the starting point. We also included the possibility to add pack to shipment.
Oh, great. You can still add a bottle of wine every now and then if you want to help the project out at the last minute.
That's for the third point. But for the second one, it's actually what you could have while you're shipment is being prepared, you could realize that okay, you have actually more space on the plane. So before it was technically because of the swell, not possible to really add a shipment, or you had to do returns and build a new shipment. While now what you can simply do is you take from the shipment list a packing list or some packs which are ready, some parcels which are ready, and you can include them on the shipment. And for the bottle of wine, this was already there before, the possibility to add additional items, being a bag sent by an expat, or things which were actually not managed within or ordered via Unifield. But then you had this problem that the weight was actually not being included on the freight manifest. And then you ended up with a fake weight, you had to do correction manually. So now all these things, weight and volumes, mostly from these added items, you can also print them on the freight manifest.
And as you said, the freight manifest itself, the layout of it is improved, so it's clearer.
Exactly. Yeah, you have more information now.
Okay. There's the additional items button, I see.
Exactly. So,
and then there's the add packs to shipment button. I can see here as well.
The first part of the top part of the screen shows how you can actually add parcel ranges on a shipment which is already created, and with the addition, the second part of the screen shows how to add the bottle of wine. Or,
where you've said laptop bag.
Or the laptop bag,
for example.
Yeah, something not being ordered via Unifield.
Yeah, very clear. Okay. So the deliveries report.
So so now we are leaving a little bit, and I have just one thing which is not touching the pick pack ship, which has been introduced with the version 14, is this report. So as we saw at the very beginning, we have different ways to deliver goods within Unifield, and we didn't really have a nice report to show all these deliveries in one click, in one report. We had to do several extractions to be able to extract mostly the real consumption report versus the delivery outs and the pick pack ships, or the packing actually. So now this report, the delivery report, has been built. It's actually a mirror of the reception report, which was developed or introduced with the previous version, the version 13. And it shows in one report all the closed deliveries, so everything which has actually been shipped, whatever the way you do the delivery. And I think on the next slide, there is a small example of how it looks today. And on this one, you have out document and also here. And then down there, you have packs or things which have been shipped via a pick pack ship process.
Okay, very clear.
So now, this is more to briefly re-explain how it is working. All these things have been included in the new version of the manual, which is now available on the OOPS, and also in the release note, which was sent at this time, which is sometimes a little bit technical, and that's why, I still think it's needed, and it's coming a bit late maybe, but it's always needed to explain in a vulgarized way how these things are actually working. But you have been using this for now 2 months, and I'm quite sure that you have questions and maybe criticism on this, and I would be very happy to hear them.
Great. Okay, so there's 2 ways that you can interact. You can either raise your hand. There's a little raise your hand icon somewhere on the console. And if you do that, then I see that you've raised your hand and I unmute you, and then you can then just ask your question orally. Or you can type your question into the question pane and I can read it out for you. Or you can use the chat pane. So there's 3 ways even. So off you go. Come with your questions. Is this working for you? Is it confusing as hell? Do you love Unifield? Do you hate Unifield? How is it for you? Over. And now there's always a little pause while the first person builds up courage to ask the question. Or maybe it's all crystal clear and there's no need for questions, but that would surprise me, considering the number of acronyms that you used already. Was it clear for you, Johannes?
Well, it's my complete first touch with Unifield, so I still have questions, but I feel like I need to have more courage from other people so that I'm not the one who asked the stupid question. No.
All right, no. There's no stupid questions. All questions are welcome. And I'll just see. Olena has put her hand up. Thank you, Olena. Go ahead. Over.
Hi, I'm sorry. This is not Yelena. This is Ahlam. I'm supply officer on detachment to Ukraine mission.
Okay.
I'm asking about the RCR. Is it possible to be used for an end user unit, like a dispensary, for example, where items are already out of Unifield, just to make some control on the dispensary itself? Thank you.
Okay, that's an excellent question. I'm not sure, Bruno, because you broke up in the middle, so I'm not sure whether you heard all of it, Bruno.
No, I think maybe I just try to rephrase and let me know if it's correct. Huh? So the question is more about, so you have an external consumption unit, probably, like you mentioned a dispensary, if I'm not wrong. I guess that you are managing a stock there. I'm not sure which tool you are actually using for that. But you would like to use Unifield to follow this. Is this correct?
Yes, for the dispensary, it's an end user unit, correct.
Mm-hmm. So the advice usually today we stop at the project stock. So we still follow the project stock with Unifield, but as soon as it goes inside the dispensary, we tend to avoid. We did some attempts already, yeah? But we tend to avoid to use this. There is no impossibility to do it, but first of all, you know that most of the time in the dispensaries, the stocks will be followed by farmers, by nurses. So we have to see if this is another profile of people to train, which is of course not impossible. So that's one thing. So we need to have the buy-in from all these people who are going to actually use this. As you know, encoding in Unifield is not always super exciting. So they need to be ready for that. And secondly, you also need to have the connection.
Internet connection.
Yeah, you need, because most of the time the instance, the database which is behind Unifield is located in the project office. And here you are in a dispensary. It could be at 5 kilometers, 10 kilometers.
Or 5 minutes. Maybe it's in the same location.
It could be in the same location, yeah. But it's very important to have this
connection
to make sure we have the connectivity. If you don't have it, there is always the possibility to use, what you are showing now, this real consumption report, where you would encode afterwards. So we do this in some places. I remember we introduced this in Pakistan some times ago. I have to say we didn't really repeat this experience because it's still debated. So it's not impossible, but it has to be analyzed.
But then what would you do if you're not going to use a real consumption report? What would you use? What software or tool would you use?
EasyStock is the one we advise to use in hospitals, in dispensaries, once it has left Unifield.
Okay, is that clear for your answer, or do you have any further follow-up questions? Over.
Yes, it's clear, but the thing is that the destination between the dispensary and the project office is almost like 2 minutes walking distance. And the other thing is that we pretty much used a lot of Unifield reports. That's why I was thinking of a more Unifield-based solution.
Okay, very clear.
Okay, yeah. So again, it's possible, but it has to be analyzed. So I would advise you to recontact me, and then together we can look more at the detailed situation and see how we can answer to that.
Because you say the biggest problem is cultural, Bruno. Is that correct?
Or cultural. It's more people. Sometimes people don't like to use software, don't have the time to do it.
Yeah.
So we need to have the buy-in from everybody.
Yeah, and they'd rather use EasyStock, which is a simple XLS-based tool, or do it on paper.
It happens that it's like that.
Yeah. Okay, is that clear, or are there any further questions you have from Ukraine? Over.
Yeah, thank you very much. This is very clear. Thank you.
Great, thanks very much indeed for your question. That's really good. I'm going to mute you. Let's see if there's anybody else who's raised their hands or typed questions. Let's see whether Greece, I'm going to unmute Marcel Gianno to see whether there's a hello. Can you hear me? Have you used this? Over. Hello, Marcel. He's busy. He's typing a question in. There we go. You can hear me. Yep, fantastic. Marcel, have you used these new features that Bruno has just presented, and has it been okay for you, or have there been problems? You can type into the question pane. Over. Don't usually use it. Okay. I can unmute you if you want, because you can actually. I can hear you typing, so I think your microphone is actually working. So if I try unmuting you again, can you say 1, 2, 3?
Do you listen to me?
Yeah, we've got you. The sound quality is maybe 4 on 5, 3 on 5, but it's okay. It's working. Go ahead. Over.
Okay, so usually we don't use it, but this is a totally new thing at least for me now. So I will make some trials and we will see how it will be.
Okay, great. Thanks very much.
I see in Greece, if you are in Greece,
you
are mostly working with simple out. So you are using delivery orders documents and not really the big.
Yeah.
This is mostly used if you are in coordination on projects. Very often, what is used is the simple out process.
Okay, but that would explain. Yeah. Okay.
Usually we use the IR first of all for internal request, and then we process the delivery order. So that let's say the picking part, we do it manually, but you cannot see it in the Unifield process.
Yeah.
Okay, and so I would not advise for Lesbos to introduce something so complex, and you don't need that. And this is why the system is by default proposing a delivery order document. Because it's more adapted to the situation there.
Okay, very clear.
But in any case, we can some trials, and we will see. But I think it's easier, as you said, to have just two steps. Boom. That's it.
Okay. All right. Thanks very much. We can pop over to RDC, and so Caroline is in Congo. Caroline, can you share some experience of using this or not using these features? Over. Okay, she's typing. Is there not a risk of having everybody using by default the quick flow through shipments containing several parcels? This is a question from Roger because the connection's not so good from Caroline. Okay, so I say Roger's question again. Is there not a risk of having everybody using by default the quick flow through shipments containing several parcels?
Yeah, so to rephrase the question of Roger, it's okay. The quick flow makes you using, you put everything in one parcel. It's actually fake.
Yeah.
It's true. It's a discussion we had. So by default, the full flow is proposed. So if you want to move to the quick flow, you have to change it yourself. You can always change from one to the other. And even though actually, with the full flow, the default thing is everything is in a parcel. And what we observed before is that most of the time, and this is also why we remove the weight, people were putting everything in one parcel, and they were including a fake weight, which at the end, it's better to have no weight than a fake weight. So there is a risk, but it's a bit of a choice to do on the mission.
And there's a risk every time you open up more options. There's a risk that people will take the shortcuts. Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, thanks, Roger, for your question. Caroline is typing in a few thoughts. She says in RDC at the beginning they had problems with changing the lot number, but luckily they've solved that now. Any comments on that? Or?
Yeah, maybe what I can say, this is on a picking ticket probably, or on the picking list. To be able, so it means that the system will always propose the first expiring item to be picked. And sometimes, in some circumstances, maybe you prefer to pick something which will expire in a long time, especially if you are building kits, for example, or if you put things in a e-prep location. For this, you would need to change the batch. And for this, you need now to cancel the availability of on the picking ticket. Yeah, that's something which blocked several missions after the release of the version 14.
Okay, but now that's solved. And then she says the second point, we now face problems with the articles which were in the process of packing during the implementation of the new version. So in the transition phase.
Okay. Yeah, a lot of people also face this. Basically, the answer is if you are blocked like that, return the goods to stock and reprocess everything. It's true that everything which was somehow being packed or being shipped at this time, has been the migration has not been so well done on some documents. So the answer is return the goods, and then this should unblock the situation.
Okay, and for the rest, she says things are okay now. Okay, thanks very much, Caroline. Martin Andrew Cajouet. Okay, I'm not sure where you are because you've used your Gmail to sign in. But Martin, can you hear us? Do you have any questions or thoughts? Over. Martin, I can hear you in the background. Hello, Martin.
Yeah, I will give you the question later because we just started a meeting. Can I?
Okay, no worries. I'll leave you alone. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to type them in or to raise your hand. Very impressive multitasking in a meeting and attending a webinar at the same time. I can't do that. Okay, all right. And I scroll down to see whether there's anybody else. Okay. Roger, I unmute you. Anything else from your side? Any further questions from your side? Roger, over.
Oh, for me, it's fine. Yeah, it's true that I was more thinking about why do we have several options for doing the same thing, actually. I was more thinking of having maybe only one way and then do anything possible to simplify that way the most that we can, instead of having several ways of doing the same thing, actually.
Okay, so there's a question on strategy there. Either we have just one simple process flow and then we work on simplifying that process flow so it's just beautifully seamless, or we open up exceptions, which it seems to that seems to be the strategy that you've taken. Any thoughts around that?
We didn't change much the things. This has always been there between the simple load and the pick pack ship. The only thing we did with the version 14 is we tried to make the pick pack ship easier to understand, because it's a long process and people were getting lost inside all the documents which are appearing there. And the reason why we need to keep two is that, well, we mentioned the example of Lesbos. I don't see the point to use the pick pack ship to do delivery from the Lesbos project to the Lesbos activities. While if you are in Juba and you need to ship goods by plane to a place like Pibor, for sure you need to be much more detailed in what you are actually sending. So you will need packing lists, you will need freight manifests. Same is true if you subcontract your transport to an external company.
Roger?
I agree, but I think, as you said, this option actually people use it more when there is a constraint actually that is imposed to them by the transport company, because I've seen people in the field actually using the simple delivery out actually to even pick pack the goods and ship them using their own truck.
Yeah, and I also see people using the delivery order. And then at the end, they are creating maybe the packing list, but for sure the freight manifest on Word. So it's a choice, but it's a bit sad. The system is now better than before, is producing all the documents for you. So if you use the full flow, then you won't need to create all these documents manually. But again, I think every time you have to look at, okay, what are my constraints in which, and then you should choose between you should choose what is the best process for you, and then you stick to this one.
Really good. Well, thanks very much for your thoughts. I'm just going to say hello to Ayodele in Nigeria. Unmuting you. Do you have any thoughts, Ayodele? Over. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, hello. Ayodele in Nigeria. Do you have any comments, questions,
Yes.
thoughts?
No. I'm just following the process and all the questions.
Good. Okay. Nothing from your side then. Okay. Thanks very much. Good. Well, and then I give a last chance for people to raise their hands or type questions into the question pane. No. In that case, then it seems all is rock and roll, Bruno.
Okay. Yeah.
Fantastic. So thanks very much indeed, Bruno, for sharing this, and thanks very much everybody online for taking the time to listen. And you can wave goodbye.
Thank you for being there. And if you have further questions, you can always contact me. And you know that we have a support address where you can send all your questions. So yeah, if you have any, it's the same. If you feel that something here could help you to solve a situation that you are facing on your mission, sometimes processes can be changed. Don't change them every day, otherwise you will lose the people. But it's always good to rethink the way you are actually approaching a situation.
Great. Allez. Ciao, ciao.
Thank you.
Wave.